Like la la la, la la la, la la, running on no sleep, running, running on repeat. Like la la la, la la la, la la, running on no sleep, running, running on repeat. Like
I want to do a breakdown of how much this sweater would cost if I decided to sell it. I had to buy 3 skeins of this particular yarn, which came to $11.99 each. Both 2 of my discounts, it came to $26.01. I had to make 12 of these squares, which took me about an hour each. So that's 12 hours of labor alone on just the squares. If I had to guess, it took me about 4 hours to do the sleeves, the cuffs, attaching the squares, and the border. So it's an additional 4 hours of labor. Here I was afraid I was going to run out of yarn, and I still had a cuff left and the borders, but luckily I had just enough. So it's 16 hours of labor at $10 an hour. That's $160 plus the $26 of yarn, which is $186.
I saw this blanket on Twitter last week and I love it, and I said I'm doing this right now. So I took my yarns and started to learn the patterns. I made this one sun pattern, but I'm not still too sure about it, and this is the final result of the moon. And then I realized I need to make 64 of each because I'm going to make this 1.5 by 2 meters. This means there will be 12 patterns in each row and there will be 16 columns. I could only make 6 of them so far. That's okay for the first time. Then I will be sewing them together. And this is the easiest part, by the way, the sewing part. I already sew the first group of 3, then I will sew the other 3, and I will stitch them at the end of the first group. And here I sew it all together. This is the half of the first row of the 6th pattern. And see you in part 2. Bye!
My friends are like, you crochet, that's such an old lady thing to do. And I guess it is, crochet. Sounds old lady-like, you know, so I want to rebrand it something cooler. So I looked up the word origin, and crochet is a French word that means to hook. So I'm a hooker.
I'm making this top, and this is the yarn I need to finish it. I cannot use it like this. I will have to wind it into a ball first, and I don't have a Swift, so let's try to do that without using one.
Leave it to Taylor to get me out of my 3-year hiatus of posting anything. I'm back and it feels good. Okay, let's go get our yarn. I got mine at Joann's, but you can get yours online. I'm so excited. Let's start crocheting. With your yarn and crochet hook, make a slip knot, tighten it, and you're going to chain a lot, like 138 times. And then now you're going to skip 3 double crochet, chain 1 for your first row, looks like that. Then change colors. Now do some more 3 double crochet and chain 1, and it's looking so good. I've always wanted to try the granny stitch. It is such a fun way to crochet. Weave in a lot of ends. My favorite part. Said no one. Sew your sleeves, and I have a really pretty way to make them look great. And this is me sewing the front to the back. And then you do a single crochet border around the neckline and the bottom of your dress and your sleeves. It makes the whole thing pop. And I'm attaching the sleeve. Block your dress and you're done. I have a full video tutorial on my YouTube page. Go check it out and start crocheting.
Welcome back to Is It Worth It? I timed myself to see how long it takes me to crochet my colorful granny square vest, and now we're going to see if it'd be worth it to sell it.
I started off first designing the granny square. I wanted it to be a pretty full coverage, but I also wanted it to be really beginner friendly and easy to follow. I ended up landing on something very similar to a traditional granny square, only I left out a lot of the spaces. For the size I was making, I only needed 4 rounds for my granny square, so by the time it was complete, I had spent just under 15 minutes making one square. Then came the fun part, making all of the other squares. I knew this was going to get repetitive, so to make things a little bit more fun, I was switching yarn colors with each square, although it might have just been easier to make all in one color and then move on. I sewed together my front panels and then I blocked them overnight, and then I just spent the next several days blocking a bunch of granny squares and sewing them together to create the front panels, the side panels, and the back panel. In total, I used 22 squares for the entire vest, not including the 2 extra pieces I used for the front panels. The very last step was to create a border around the entire vest and fasten on the front ties. So now we get to decide, is it worth it? First, let's assume I spent $3 on materials. Then, since I spent 5.5 hours crocheting the squares, let's just call it 6 hours spent crocheting. With minimum wage in New York being $15 per hour, that would bring your labor cost to $90, making the very minimum cost for this vest $93. Is this worth it? I'm pretty undecided on this one. What do you think?
Crochet along with me on this little moon pattern I whipped up this afternoon. I'm using a hook H, which is the 5mm, and the yarn is I Love This Yarn by Hobby Lobby. Make your slip knot and then chain 13. Slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. Followed by single crochet into the next chain. Do 1/2 double crochet into the next 2 chains. Next, you will make 2 double crochets into the next 4 chains, giving you a total of 8 double crochets. One 1/2 double crochet into the next 2 chains, just like you did at the beginning. Single crochet into the next chain, then slip stitch into the last chain. Chain 1 in turn, skip the first stitch and slip stitch into the second stitch. Then 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches.
First things first, I'm incredibly annoying, chopping problems, that's my pride. I just don't respond to yelling. Maybe since you asked in time and I'll hear you down the line. Guess I'm the issue here and that's absolutely fine. No illusion where we at, I'm the Lord, you just God. I feel like 2020 was about the victory now.
The next part is going to be a repeat pattern. You're going to do 2 single crochet into the next stitch and then 1 single crochet into the following stitch. Repeat this 3 more times. Next, you will do 1 single crochet and ending with a slip stitch. Notice we are not going to work into that slip stitch that we started in the last round. Fasten off. In here we want to be careful not to ruin the sharp edges of the moon. We don't want them to become blunt. So tuck in your tail right behind the slip stitch that you just made. Take a look and make sure that there's still a little sharp edge. And then what I like to do is tie my tail in a knot to help hold the shape and to secure it. When you finish tucking in your tail, I would suggest to make sure to keep it loose. If not, then you will lose that crescent shape of the moon. If you're having a hard time getting that crescent shape of the moon, then I would suggest, instead of doing the 2 single crochet followed by 1 single crochet repeat on that last row, switch those out for doing 2 single crochets in each of those stitches. Have fun and figure out what's best for you. Happy crocheting!